I want to talk about The Walking Dead, The Ones Who Live, and whether or not Michonne is going to die in this episode. And the reason why I want to talk about, whether or not Michonne's going to die in this episode is because I personally think that, at this point, you can't really kill off Rick Grimes because everyone thought he was dead. Killing him off right now would be so random in terms of any sort of reunion with anyone else. Michonne, obviously, everyone is assuming is alive, so she has the higher chance, I guess, to die in this show. So I do want to talk about, whether or not Michonne could actually die here in this last episode, because I remember there being some reviews of this show, not reviews, but people were talking about, I guess the ending here, and people saying that there's not going to be a dry eye in any household or something like that. Like, I don't remember the exact quote, but it was something like that. So it seems like something very emotional is going to happen in this episode here. So I want to talk about what that moment could be. So before we go any further, obviously make sure to be a subscriber if you do want to get all my Walking Dead content like this. We are 6 days away from the very last episode of The Ones Who Live, as we know as of now anyways, and I'm gonna have videos all week, breaking down episode 5, and well, not as much talking about episode 5 because there wasn't a lot that happened in that episode. I mean really phenomenal episode, like my favorite episode of the season, but that was more because of Jadis's death and just sort of the build up to that. And I think I'll focus a lot more on the finale and stuff, and sort of interviews and new like trailers or teasers that we get throughout the week, right? So definitely make sure to be a subscriber if you want to get all of that. But let's get into the question here. And I know it's a really crazy question. I think people might get upset with me for even asking the question, but will Michonne die in the finale here to The Walking Dead, The Ones Who Live? I wouldn't normally ask a question like this because of, I think with The Walking Dead, there was just certain characters that were never going to die, right? And I think that's what's changed with all the spinoffs, is that you kind of feel like some of these characters could die at really any point, right? And when you look at Rick and Michonne's story, it's been like, obviously it was very like they were, it was tragic and stuff for a while because they were taken apart from each other, but they've had some really good moments here in the last couple of episodes that it almost feels like something bad is about to happen. And that was one thing that Gimple actually said, in the episode inside of episode 5, like he was really happy to give them those moments in episodes like 4 and 5 and all that. Because basically, I'm paraphrasing, but a lot of bad things seem to be happening here in episode 6. So I don't know what that means. Does that mean a death? Like, could you actually kill off Michonne? I think that story-wise, you can. You definitely can. As a writer, definitely you can always do or make decisions like that. But for me personally, I don't know how I would feel about it. I really don't. Like, on one hand, you could do like other things with Rick in the future in season 2 and all that, but I just feel like if you're going to kill her off this soon, it would kind of hurt the story. The only way that you would do it most likely is if Denai wanted off the show, right? Like if she came back to sort of write her character off, then I could see that potentially, happening. But that's really the only way I could see it happening, because otherwise, I don't know. I think I wouldn't really like that to happen, to be honest. Like I want her to be a big part of the story. Like, say she dies in season 3 and that's like the very last season of the show, then I guess fine, because that's the end of their stories, or even if Rick dies at that point, as long as Rick is reunited with everyone, then I'm fine with it. But that's what I want. I want there to be crazy moments like that to happen, but I want that like at the end. I think that if it happened now and they were still to do another 2 seasons, but now it's more focused on Rick and Michonne died here in the finale, that would just feel so off. It would honestly feel so off. And so that's why I personally don't think that Michonne's going to die here in the finale, because that would be something that a lot of people would be, very upset about. I just, for me personally, I think where it does get really interesting is when you focus on how happy they've been over the last couple of episodes, right? Or episodes 4 and 5. Those moments feel like moral compass moments, and that was always a thing. Whenever things were just too good, whenever things were so happy, you just felt like something bad was about to happen. And that's just something that, again, Gimple used to do that all the time, and he's the showrunner of this show. Things are just way too happy right now that something bad has to happen, right? That's why I feel like there's going to be a season 2, because things are just too good for them overall. And something bad has to happen here. That's just sort of what they've always done. There's no way it's just going to be all good until the end. So what if the thing that happens that's really bad is Michonne dies? Because if you're just looking at episodes 4 and 5, like they got back together. Rick just proposed to Michonne, and they're just focusing so much on those characters that it's like, what if they built to something here in the finale that I don't know if it would be Michonne's sacrifice. She's talked about that a lot. Like, we have to sacrifice, and what if that's what that is? What if this show ends with Michonne's sacrifice? That could be something that would, honestly, to see Rick, like, again, there's that one line, and I was going to do this video after episode 4, but I'm kind of glad I waited because of just more of what we saw in episode 5. But in episode 4, there was a line that was so chilling that as soon as I heard that, it might have even been in my reaction to the episode, but I just remember that line where Rick says, "Without you, I die," and it was something like that anyways. I don't know if that was the exact line, but basically saying without Michonne, he is done. And there would just be something so sad about that moment, if like they have that moment there and Michonne is helping Rick, and like Rick saying that, like, "Without you, I die," and he's like breaking down to, literally lose Michonne right away. Like, I don't know if that moment was foreshadowing of the end here. Again, like that moment, I think scared me for Rick. Like, if they were ever to kill off Michonne, ever, I don't think Rick could handle it. I really don't think Rick could ever handle it. I think that, if you know of the comic story after Andrea's death, Rick is absolutely destroyed for a while. He's sleeping by Andrea's grave for like, a lot of issues. They were starting to deal with some of the savior drama, and he really, like, he could not care. There was a lot there. And then obviously the Commonwealth show up and things change, and that sort of took his mind off a lot. But that was really near the end of Rick's arc anyways, and he kind of dealt with some stuff there, but he was a changed person forever. I don't know if that's going to happen here. Like, again, that moment there was very chilling, and it did make me, like, very concerned for the future, but maybe that happens at the very end. Maybe that's not a season 1 finale thing. Maybe if they did 3 seasons or even 2, but like at the very end of their story, it ends with Michonne's death, right? I think maybe that is more of what happens. I don't know. Again, I know it's kind of insane to talk about because it is just something that's kind of unimaginable. You can't really picture that character dying, or at least I can't picture that character dying. And it's like she's such a strong character, and it's not even like, her strength and what she brings to the story. It's just she's such a down to earth character, and she's always brought Rick down to earth, because that's the one thing that The Ones Who Live has taught me, actually, is that Rick is very, I guess we should have known this, or I should have known this throughout the years, but Rick is kind of unstable sometimes. Like, yes, he can be very grounding in many moments, but like as a leader, obviously I think as a leader he does well because he has to, but as a person he's sometimes unstable, and he goes through a lot. But Michonne is such a strong character. Like, she really does ground him in so many ways, and I think, in so much of this story, just without Rick, with what she brings overall to every scene that she's in, it would just be, again, I don't know what The Walking Dead would do without Michonne. I really don't. She's such a big part of this franchise. And with The Ones Who Live, like, if they were to do a season 2, I just don't picture it happening without Michonne. So, I asked the question here because obviously that's something that I do want to, I like doing videos like this. It's been a while since I've been able to do a video talking about, like, well, is this character going to die and whatnot? And I would do one on Rick, but that just kind of feels ridiculous because the character literally just died to everyone, right? And most people think that Rick is dead. So to kill him off here, and then in the future to be like, if Michonne goes back to Alexandria and it's like, yeah, I found him, but he died, everyone would be like, wait, what? Right? So that's why I don't want to do that, because even talking about that just doesn't make a lot of sense. Like, after he reunites with everyone, then sure, yeah, he can die at any point at that point. But I just think right now it doesn't make a lot of sense. So out of both characters, out of the 2 main characters of the show, that's why I wanted to focus more on Michonne, because I think it just makes more sense because everyone thinks she's alive right now, right? So I'm going to say no, I don't think that there's going to be any death or any big death like this. I think that if anything, out of all of the characters, I think that could die here in the finale, it is probably going to be Pearl Thorne. I don't see Beale dying. I think that, I would be really upset if he died, because if there's a season 2, he needs to be a bigger part of that. Like, this season, maybe it's Jadis' season, right? Perfect. But Beale needs to be a bigger part of his season 2 if they are going to be doing that. And Pearl Thorne, I would love her to be in season 2. I really would. But maybe Major General Beale kills Pearl Thorne in this episode. That would make, obviously him more of a villain. And I just did a video breaking down the trailer for episode 6. And I talked about how I think Beale needs to be more of a threatening villain, right? And so far, he's just he's just kind of around and you know that he's the villain, but he hasn't really done villain things yet, right? I think that that could be a moment that is really, really shocking, right? If he does something like that. So I am very, very interested in where this is going. There are certain things in this season that just scare me in terms of Michonne, and that's why I wanted to talk about it, because I feel like it's sort of an interesting thing to talk about, because again, Michonne has talked about this entire season about having to make a sacrifice. You need to sacrifice, you know, and I'm like, what if that's herself in the end? And then Rick saying, without you, I die. And just a lot of that, you know, that it makes me worried sometimes when I think of all of that, and combined with, you know, what was said about the very last episode, you know, just in terms of there's not going to be a dry eye and like in any house, like that is concerning to me. That really is honestly so concerning to me. So I hope that, you know, it more ends with Alexandria being destroyed and Rick and Michonne are just like really upset. I want, you know, that aspect to it, because again, no one's in Alexandria right now. I mean, there's people, but it's a lot of like no name characters and all that, right? It's not going to be anyone we know, though. They could make some characters that we know, you know, actually be deaths there. I think that would be insane, but like that could actually happen here. So I'm just so hyped for the finale. I really am. But anyways, post all your thoughts down below. Do you think Michonne could die in the finale of The Walking Dead: The Ones Who Live? Hope you guys all enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.